You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's now time for our main event. Take a trip back in time to the golden era of the wrestling world with your host, Chris Tetrold Blade. Welcome to Once Upon a Turnbuckle.
Welcome back to another very special episode of Once Upon a Turnbuckle, and I get to continue the trend I've had over the last couple of episodes, which I'm dubbing now Behind the Karnage. I get to delve further into almost like the back room of pro wrestling carnage now. So I get to welcome another special guest, Kai Sandbrook. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me. I love what you've done with Cayman and the one with Danny.
Thank you, bud.
So,
yeah.
I love the lack of naming that Dan gave me. So he sort of mentioned me once or twice, and I was like, right, I'll have him on this one. I'll mention him in every sentence I say.
Well, this is it. You've got your own stage now, your own slot, so you can sort of really put yourself over, as it would say. So, I believe so. You're mainly a promoter for Pro Wrestling Carnage. Is that right? Is that fair to say? Yeah.
I mainly like they can do all the bookie stuff. They can like put the matches together.
Yeah.
I'll just be here and be like, yo, we need to sell tickets. I'm gonna do that, okay?
That's the important stuff.
I'm gonna do that. So, yeah. So everything that you see online, all the write-ups and everything, is pretty much all me. I do send them to everyone for like feedback and review, but most of the time they just go, "Yep," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
So you're very much the one, really, one of the ones anyway, putting Pro Wrestling Carnage as an entity out there visibly.
Trying to get the brand over.
Yeah.
And try and get the boys over before they can go out into the ring and, you know, do the wrestles. So
which again is the really important stuff, especially this day and age, social media being what it is and everything. And even back in the day, you would have guys who were responsible for promoting the shows and getting butts in seats, as they say. And I guess it's a new promotion as well, one that was kind of either delayed, I'm not too sure, but due to COVID, obviously, there's been some kind of impact, I would think.
Yeah, there's two sides to that, because we were technically delayed, because our first show, we were aiming for March of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But we were also kind of like, we started announcing the company sooner than we were going to because of COVID. So we were like, well, no one's really doing anything. Everyone's on their phones. Like, the life is sort of stopped. This would be the perfect time. And it really was. We sort of announced Karnage, and I think Dan said on you, within like 2 days, we had like 200 likes.
Crazy.
Like
yeah.
So it was the perfect time to announce it. But then, of course, we had to keep the momentum going for almost a year before the shows.
Yeah.
So, but luckily, you know, people stuck with it, and so
it's just kind of exploded. I mean, yeah, you've had one show so far, and then you promoted another 2, but already it kind of came onto my radar, I guess, mainly because Cayman was talking about it on his show, which I was a fan of already. But I do follow a lot of the indie promotions across the British indie scene. So at some point, I think I would have seen it. And even visibly, I say, like, the logo and things that you guys put out is very much more in your face than some of the others I've seen. So
that's a testament to what Dav did. The first design he gave us, it worked, but it didn't really pop. It was just sort of pro wrestling, and then like a fist, and then Karnage, and we were like, that's okay, like, it's good.
Yeah.
But you can do better. And he did, and he knocked it straight out of the park. Because anytime I'm scrolling, even like if I'm just scrolling and someone shared something, and I'm like, oh, that's us. just immediate, because it catches your eye and you just keep going back to it because it's the
Yeah.
bright red, it pops. So
Yeah.
I love the logo. I think it was fantastically done by Dav.
Yeah, it's
To be fair to him on that.
red. And my wife cringed / laughed at me because my ideal color combination is red and black. It's very cliche, you know. Take it back to Kane, if you will, and just the image that he brought up. But yeah, it's really, really.
I think that's kind of why Dav went with red, because we never really specified a color, really, as far as I can remember, at least. But I feel like because he saw the K was in the name, he was like, I'm gonna just put Kane down and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it worked.
It's good.
I love it. So
it's brilliant. So before we get too far into it, let's kind of wind it back like I like to do, because you know, it's called Once Upon a Turnbuckle. The podcast when it started out was really sort of winding my experience back to when I first discovered wrestling. I'm really interested when my guests come on to find out what the moment was that you discovered wrestling. So can you remember, you know, when you first noticed it and what sort of grabbed you into it as entertainment or sport?
Yeah, I remember seeing it like years ago when I was like 3 or 4 and just like sort of going, those are men hitting each other. Why? And just never really registering that this is a thing that people do for money. It was just sort of like, okay. To me, it was just like Takeshi's Castle. People are just making fools of themselves. That's what it looked like.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
You know? And then fast forward, I think when I really got into it was like 2008, 9-ish. Actually, rewind a little bit. So the first match that I ever watched was Rey Mysterio versus Rene Dupree.
Okay.
I'll get back to that later. Just put a pin in that.
Yeah.
But then, so about 2008, 9, my friend was talking. He was like, oh, do you want to come over and watch SummerSlam? And I was like, what's that? It sounds violent. What is this? And he was like, oh, it's wrestling. And I was like, what's that? And he said, Rey Mysterio. And I was like, is that a DJ? I didn't know. I had no idea. He said Undertaker. I knew what an Undertaker was. So I was like, oh, like burying people. And he was like, no, he's a wrestler. And I'm like, hold on, what is this? What is this wrestling thing you are talking about, sir? And it was just, I was really confused. And so I went over and watched an episode of Raw. It must have been an older one, because like looking at it now, it was like 2006 era. They had the sort of the metallic thing and the whole weird things on the side. Don't know what to call them now. And I'm almost 20 and I don't know what they're called. But it had Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler doing the commentary. And it was just really weird and bizarre. Because it was just, I can't remember a real, like a match from it. But I can just remember someone taking a spill to the outside. And I just went, okay.
So that
all right. And I just fell into it from there. It was never sort of, oh, this is amazing.
Right.
It was like, this is a bit strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably similar to when I discovered it's kind of hypnotic in a way. It piques your curiosity in a way that you never really.
I just wanted to know. To be fair, I think part of me was just like, I want to know what Rey Mysterio looks like.
That is.
He was the first one mentioned to me, and I was like, right, I need to see that face.
Yeah.
What's under the mask? And so that sort of kept me in for a few years, and then it sort of drifted off from seeing what Rey Mysterio's face looked like.
Sure.
To seeing actual matches. But yeah, I think it just started off as me being genuinely curious about what the hell people were talking about.
That is.
So
that is. I've got not that I watch, people who watch and listen to this probably have heard me say it thousands of times. I don't keep up with the current product. So we come from probably quite different eras. So you could educate me during this probably on some of the stuff that sort of hooks you in. But I still watch a lot of the old school stuff. And I had a DVD on recently. One of my kids came in, they looked up at the screen, and I think the match was Earthquake against Hulk Hogan. Earthquake had Hulk Hogan in a bear hug. Their reaction to me was, why are they hugging? I was like, brilliant. Again, innocence completely. You will leave it at that. So.
Two men hugging now, and you're like, okay, when are you going to do the 7 rotation backflip? What's going on?
Yeah, but, it's a completely different time.
It was really weird for me getting into wrestling, because I remember loving it, but I also remember just being confused.
Okay.
So I feel like I just got into wrestling because it just threw me off for a bit.
Just curiosity. Cool. Okay. So from there, obviously, we can jump around as much as we want to, but sort of, you're obviously involved in it now. At what point did that kind of come about that you decided you wanted to be involved somehow in the wrestling industry, or is it something that just happened out of the blue?
It was definitely something that I decided upon pretty much as soon as I got into it properly, like as a fan. So again, you're talking like 2000 and probably 11. So like 9-year-old me was looking at like CM Punk leaving WWE and going, "Oh my god, this is so this," because it was still real. It was real to me, damn it.
Yeah.
So I was watching this, and I thought it was amazing. You know, these stories, and I was already acting at the time.
Okay.
And I already loved horror films and writing, and then you see like characters like Lord Tensai, Karma, and all these coming into WWE. You'd already had characters like Suicide, and the more cartoonish, like the Shark Boys, the Curryman from Impact. So I was just like two sides of it. I love the character work, and I absolutely love the stories.
Okay.
And I just wanted to get in as a writer, I think, at first. Like I just wanted to tell the stories from that perspective.
Yeah.
And then I started really enjoying the work of like Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole. And right after when Jerry Lawler had his heart attack, I was like, I really want to do what he does, because he had the outpouring of support.
Yeah.
And like I was mesmerized by that, because it's like, because I didn't know who Jerry Lawler was as a wrestler. I just knew he was the guy that yelled puppies sometimes. You know, he was just that guy to me.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to be like that. So I went from wanting to be a wrestling writer to wanting to be a commentator. And then sort of around 2015, I want to say, I went to an indie show for the first time in like 6 years. And I just went, yep, want to do this.
Cool.
So just want to do this. And it was also a conversation I had as well with Brewski Blanche, weirdly enough.
Okay.
One of our boys, one of the guys, one of the men. And we just met in a coffee shop randomly, just really randomly in like 2014, something. And he obviously explained that he used to wrestle. He was out of the business at this point. But he sort of said, oh yeah, you know, everyone, you know, needs to give something that they want to do a try. And that sort of stuck with me. And then when I went to this indie show, it sort of reignited it. But then I took my time, and about a year after that, maybe in like July 2016, I finally got around to taking the first session. I took a bump, thought I was going to die. 5 years later, I still take a bump and think I'm going to die, but I love it. So it's happening all the time now. So yeah, it's just a natural progression, I think. I just wanted to do everything.
That's cool. So you got a bit of in-ring sort of experience mixed in there as well.
Yeah. One thing I feel like is important is to understand where the guys are coming from when they come to you with issues.
Okay.
I don't want to be the guy that, like, someone comes up to me and says, oh, I'm beaten up, I've wrestled this, and they've taken this bump and I'm a bit aggravated. And I don't want to be the guy that turns around and goes, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've taken bad bumps. I know how it feels, you know?
Yeah.
And so from experience, I can be like, yeah, you can rein it in for this match. It's fine. You can work the comedy guy. We can try and limit the injury, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like experience in wrestling is very important. Yeah. Just to understand where the guys are coming from and the respect from it.
And that's really good.
There are guys that have never wrestled that are great promoters. That's not, you know, but for me, I would want to take advice from people that have done it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not a huge star, to be honest with you, kind of shit. But you know, if someone comes up to me and asks, you know, for advice or what I think they should do in a match, I'm not going to say, oh, don't ask me. I will try and lend the hand from that. So
I think that's brilliant. Again, losing touch a little bit with where I use WWE as my main reference point because I think they've always been the yardstick, even when I was a fan, you know, for whatever they're doing, that you can kind of see where the industry's going. I mean, when they had writers like Freddie Prinze Jr., for example, I don't know if they gave him a run around in the ring like you had, or whether they just kind of thought, well, this guy is in Hollywood, he's bound to write some good stuff, let's get him in. And I think having that kind of empathy with the talent is, I mean,
think from a writing perspective, definitely having in-ring experience will help. Will help me like put out promos or storylines or like vignettes for people. Just because I understand of what I need to tell the story to get them over, and to get their style over. In a way. So I feel like the in-ring experience is very important to me personally, just because it helps strengthen everything else around what I do. So I honestly think training to wrestle was probably the best decision I've ever made. Maybe not for my body, but for me as a person, it's definitely one of the better things that I've ever done, I think.
That's cool. So the obvious question, I suppose, again, the industry has kind of gone this way. I don't know if it's still a big thing, but you had back in the day, Mr. McMahon, Eric Bischoff, all these behind the scenes guys that came in as on-screen characters, as it were. Do you kind of mix that up as well, your promoter side? Do you put that out in the ring as yourself? No,
I don't like that kind of character because it's played out now. And like, as soon as if I'm wrestling on a show, as soon as music hits, or as soon as I get there and the gear's in my bag, as long as it's not a Karnage show, obviously. But if my gear's in the bag and I'm wrestling for someone else, I'm not a promoter anymore.
No,
I'm just a worker. I'm just a guy in the locker room.
Sure.
But at Karnage, the minute my gear goes on, or the minute music hits, I'm not owner Kai. No. I'm the superior mind, wrestling again, which, just to put it out there, will probably not happen. I'm not looking to wrestle in Karnage, but I wouldn't be doing this Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon thing where I'm a power hungry trying to win the belt from us. No,
like you say, that's good. That's good to know. The lessons have been learned almost from those.
Well, we have our managing director. We have JLJ. Okay. He's gonna do a fantastic. He did it the first show. He's gonna do it at every other show. He's gonna be great, and I wouldn't think of anyone stepping into that. And especially not replacing it with a played out sort of authority figure like that. So it works, but I don't feel like it needs to be everywhere.
No. How just off the top of my head then, really, I mean, from your perspective, for a new promotion, and obviously you want to be recognized for what you do, what are the challenges in terms of making what you do unique from a writing and promoting perspective?
Well, it's nothing's original anymore, I think, is the main complaint a lot of people will say, is everything is a rehash or a recycling of something else. So it's just trying to find match types that you can change, rules maybe you can bend a little bit. The good thing I think with Karnage is our roster, because we have just anything and everything you would want from a variety standpoint. We have it. We have the huge ego trip heels in James Ellis. We have the brawlers in like a Danny Owens or a Cue Ball. He's gonna absolutely love that I put both of those names together. And we've got the technicians and the really over the top theatrical. I hate everyone, like a Martin Grant and a Mark Daniels. And then we also have like literal superhero, the Flying Grayson, straight out of a 90s cartoon endlessly, you know what I mean? Necrophago. We've got loads of different characters, loads of different sort of personalities. So they really do it themselves. We don't really need to manufacture anything for them. But then from a poster standpoint, you need to try and display it a little bit differently. So maybe that's not including the boxes around the words, or maybe making the words pop a bit more, putting logos instead of just show text, you know? And then from the writing, mutation just sort of happened one day, I think. I just sort of wrote that down and was like, yeah, that'll do. And like a year later, it's part of the fabric of the company now, is we're changing wrestling. And I think that sort of worked to our strength, because it allowed us to do a lot of different things. Like the design of the titles allowed us, you know, not so much the tag team titles. The tag team titles are designed just as wrestling belts, really. Good looking wrestling belts, but they don't have the Karnage mutation look to them, in my opinion. But you also have the world title, which has the cracks, and you know, the foundation of wrestling is changing. That's the way I see it. From that. So it's just presentation. I think we try to change up a bit, and the way we sort of present ourselves, like the names of shows. We put a lot of thought into the names of shows.
It's very cool. And you've got obviously the first mutation, which we'll talk a little bit about in a sec. And then you've got one day before Halloween, which you've kind of gone. It reminds me, going back old school, what WCW was doing with Halloween Havoc. You know, having an event that, you know, acknowledges the time of year it's at and plays with it a little bit. I mean, just quickly then, have you got sort of ideas for your next show? Obviously, you know, let us know what let everyone know what it's called and everything.
So Karnage from the Crypt, it's like, it's got a Halloween feel to it, obviously Halloween theme. We want to try and get a lot of the wrestlers to dress up for it, you know, like costumes and stuff.
That'd be cool.
Some of them are into the idea, others not so much. But and I know Danny Owens just wants to dress up as Danny Owens. Whatever.
That might be what he looks like on Halloween. You know, you never know. But yeah, because he joked about him and Blanche swapping costumes, which
I'd be well up for that. I think that would work so well, to be honest with you. But as long as Blanche grows the beard out and Danny shaves it, that would be great.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's quite.
I don't think he's going to enjoy that idea, but
probably been cultivating that for a little while.
But so hold on. But where was I? So yeah, we want to try and get a lot of the fans as well to dress up.
I was going to say, get the crowd.
I want them to try and dress up as the wrestlers, because I just want to see a fan trying to dress up as like Necrophago, or you know, just dress up as Cayman, please. You just got a kid coming in on stilts. I'd pop. I'd love it. I would love it. But yeah, I'd love it. You know what I mean? But
Cayman to come in some crocodile costume.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yes.
Brilliant.
We would just want to try and make it a really fun show. And Halloween obviously is like a kids holiday thing. I hear it called, and I'm like, nah, no, it ain't. But yeah, we're trying to incorporate as much of like the tradition of Halloween into it as we can. But yeah, I mean, I wanted a trick or street fight, but
I like that. Oh really? Oh, that's a shame.
I never pitched it, but you know, I wanted it. I thought it. You know,
would it be like a what was it? A Firefly Funhouse? What was that god awful thing that they tried?
Maybe not for this year, but for a future Halloween show, definitely a cinematic match is on my radar, or something that I want to do.
Cool.
I want, like, there's a lot of characters and people in Karnage. Like High and Mighty have already done cinematic matches against each other. Both have been very well received, so I know they can do it.
Yeah.
But there's also other guys in the locker room that I'd absolutely love to see in a cinematic environment. Like Cayman, oh my god, please.
How could you imagine?
Just the things that he comes out with would be great, just for a cinematic feel. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's for maybe next year or the year after that. But I want to keep the Halloween tradition alive of doing Halloween shows, definitely.
That's cool. Especially
with that kind of name, Karnage from the Crypt. Oh, come on.
That's brilliant.
You've got the nostalgia there. Come on, it's great.
I mean, it's I always think WrestleMania, became synonymous with wrestling as a whole. term. And if you break it down, I mean, I know it was the 80s and it was very simplified anyway, but it's such a simple term by today's standards to use, and it's got that identity. So
it's so iconic that you've got, I don't know how many different promotions and indie promotions have used Mania in their title, or
exactly.
So like I know Grapple Mania was one at one point.
Right.
It was an indie show just because it worked.
Yeah.
I know a few companies I've seen have used Colossal Tussle, the name that was suggested for Mania. I know a lot of them have actually used that, which I love. I think that's great. But for me, a show name really will set the stage for how good the show is going to be. And that's why I love the people I'm surrounded with, because they just bat off good names like no one's business. It's going out of style. Like I think it was Brewski Blanche that suggested Carnage from the Crypt, and I heard it and went, no, that will never. Oh,
that's cool.
And I just sort of sat down and went, that's great.
Yeah, all it does is cement the brand, isn't it? And that's at the end of the day, that's what's going to make you stand out.
Yeah,
is to have
it's different. It's
yeah,
and that's all you can really ask for now, because nothing's different anymore.
No,
but
no, I've got to ask because I've done some writing as well. I always wanted, a bit like you, I suppose, to be involved in the creative side of a wrestling promotion at some point, and that goes back to me holding my own pay-per-views with my wrestling figures on my bed when I was a kid. And I would write these storylines that I played out for weeks at a time.
A lot of people would be. Do you think people would frown upon me if I said that one or two of the storylines that I've actually done in my career so far have been recycled storylines from my figure federation?
I think that's
because it's happened. Like I've done it. I've pitched it to a couple of promoters, and it's happened. One of my storylines was a storyline that I did with I think it was a Randy Savage figure and really weirdly Yoshitatsu.
Okay.
Like the weirdest sort of feud ever, but I sort of recycled that for an old storyline that I ran with.
For me, that commands a whole new level of respect. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, if you've been able to do
one of those things. I made it up when I was like 10. I was like, this'll work. This'll put butts in seats.
There you go. But yeah, so have you got any? Again, I know you're not trying to base what you're doing, on something else someone else has done, but have you got inspirations from the writing side? I mean, you just probably touched on one if they're things that you came up with as a kid, but have you got something or someone you refer to, you take inspiration from?
Never wrestling. None of the stories, like they've probably been done at some point in wrestling, but half the things that I come up with or that I pitch or that I write down, it comes from other things, similar to how Karnage from the Crypt came about with Blanche from Tales from the Crypt.
Sure.
It's just I borrow it from other places. So like I'm trying to think, like the Superior Mind, the character that I used to run with, that was directly stolen from A Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
So that I sort of watched that film. I was like, that's great. Loved that. I'm a use that, please. Yeah. And I just ran with it from there. And so a lot. I think
that's cool.
Most of the stuff that I do is from other things.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the promos that I know I've cut before have been monologues that I've written based on different characters. Like Doctor Who, I've written a lot of like scripts for that.
Okay.
And one of my promos was almost a direct rip-off of a monologue that I'd written based on the 11th Doctor. So, like, I don't like to borrow from wrestling because a lot of people can just look stuff like that up.
Yeah.
Like, if I just came up and said, oh, I've been going through some rough times, everyone's going to be like, that's a Hard Times promo. Come on.
Yeah.
Get better,
Yeah.
But yeah, if I just start spouting some nonsense about Trenzalo, people are going to be like, what are you doing? Wait, what's this? why are you the way that you are? And like, that's how a character will get interest, is just by being unique.
Okay.
So I steal from, and I will say steal, because I do. I think everyone does. I take bits from stuff outside of wrestling and try and incorporate them in.
Okay.
Mainly in character work, to be fair.
Yeah.
Mainly in character work.
That's cool. That's cool. And I can completely see. I can stories I've written for my books in the past have come from the weirdest. Inspiration has been lifted from the weirdest places, and I do have these moments where I kind of think, I know where that's come from, but someone else who's reading this it's not going to be obvious to them. So I quite like that. Plagiarizing. It's not plagiarizing.
No,
Sounds better than stealing.
It's taking someone's homework and changing it.
Exactly.
It's different. It's the same principle, but
making it your own. Yes.
Making it your own. Tweak it. Change the title so that people won't notice.
That's it. So then sort of moving on to, again, I know that you've had one show so far that Karnage has put out, and obviously working on the next one. What was your day and what was your role entailing for that live event? Just give us a flavor of if someone was in your shoes when a live event's going on.
Yeah, so I got there. Obviously ring setup is the first thing on everyone's agenda. That was what I was doing when I first got there. And then people started filtering in, and then my job was COVID testing.
Okay.
So I'd go out, with COVID tests, hand them out, and make sure that they were cleared. Thankfully, everyone that was on the show that we booked was all clear anyway.
Cool.
So we didn't have to send anyone home. Knock on wood, that won't happen for any shows either. So,
no.
But I was COVID officer. I dubbed myself, and sort of arranged all them, took pictures of them all, so we had documents of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when everyone was there, sort of settled into trying to help with the ring again, trying to lend my hand anywhere I could, really, helping if it was putting stuff away in the kitchen, or if it was going backstage, showing people around, or if it was setting out chairs, talking to people outside the venue, talking to people from the venue, sort of liaison then sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And then when it came to the show, it was just all hands on deck then.
Cool.
Watching the monitor, going backstage, making sure everyone knew what was going on, and then getting the crowd to cheer up. Cool. Sort of being behind the curtain, going, are they gonna cheer? They're gonna cheer. They cheer. Good. Just look over at Danny. He's like, thank God. I'm like, yeah, we're doing good. And then then the wrestlers just did everything else for me. So I just sort of sat there and went, this is great. They're killing it. This is exactly what we needed.
So what you just described there, really, it sounds like there's obviously a lot of production that goes into, you're not live on TV, at the moment, but there's still a lot that goes into a live show.
I feel like even when I first said to Dan, I'll do this with you, I don't think I fully comprehended what I was getting myself into.
No.
Like there's a lot of, like, the show day, there's a lot of work that goes into there, and you're tired, and you're really beaten down by the end of it. But that doesn't even compare to everything that goes on before and after shows.
Okay.
And like, so there's a lot that goes into it, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely love what I do. What Dan does, what Blanche does, what everyone for Karnage does. There are people that don't run Karnage, like just workers that put in as much work to share in the posts and to creating a buzz for the company that we do. And I will thank them every day that I can for that. And they've really helped Karnage grow, and I love it, because it's sort of after only 5 years in the business, the fact that I can say that I've played even the smallest part in a sellout show, it's insane.
Cool. Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And I know sometimes that I have to pinch myself. I'm like, this isn't real. This can't be real. But it's the people around me that make it possible. 100%.
As I think I said to Danny, actually, is the success of that first show is a great springboard for the next one, and everything. It's going to give you something to almost better yourself at each one if you can start that strong. That's brilliant. So long-term vision then for Karnage, obviously, getting getting yourself out there on, I guess, TV or streaming or anything like that? Are you looking at, it's probably, further down the line at the moment, but you looking at that kind of thing eventually?
Like that, yeah. I'd love something like that to happen, for us. But it's just building a portfolio behind us so that we are viable, for a streaming service or for anyone really to pick us up.
Yeah.
But for right now, I think we're just focusing on getting everything in order so that we can sort of push forward and gain more of a fan base from that.
Yeah.
But the long-term plans really is just sort of, I view us in the way of an NXT kind of thing, where we have these amazing talent, fantastic, like a James Ellis, like a Jimmy Taylor, Sam Parker. I could go on, Cue Ball, Colton Clark. I literally would be here forever. Kenny Mantra, JJ Roberts, everyone on our shows brings something unique. And I feel like every company in the UK and beyond would benefit from every single person on our shows.
Yeah.
And that's where I want us to be a sort of a sample for them. Okay. They can go out there, put on a Barnstormer, and other promotions will go, oh, he could be useful. He could be useful. And then, we're a very much a launch pad for them, I view us as.
Sure.
Because I've always wanted a place where people could come, enjoy, work, and, sort of put themselves on the map sort of thing. And I feel like Wales is on track to be in that place right now where there's so much talent, there's so many great places to go. And I'm just glad that we can play a part in that, to be honest with you. It's again, it's still mad. It's just still mad.
Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't know much about, down in Devon. I don't know much about the Welsh wrestling scene, but the more that I've listened to guys talk about it, and that it seems to have exploded in recent years. There seems to have been so much more going on.
But 2 promotions local to me, and I say local, like on my doorstep in Newport.
Okay.
And then you had Dragon Pro, and then you had like Chaos and Attack that would occasionally do shows, but they weren't always doing them at the time.
Yeah.
But now it seems like every other weekend there's a show going on somewhere, and it's just mad to look at now. Obviously not right now because of COVID, but just before the lockdowns, it was booming. And I know there's a new one in Cardiff now, Creation.
Okay.
It's like, yay! It's a fantastic place to be now, the Welsh wrestling scene. Whereas at one point, like I know Cayman said, there was nothing, and now it's this huge thing. And I feel like it's just gonna keep growing, and I can't wait. I can't wait for it.
Especially, like you say, if you're playing that part by kind of, guys coming in and getting noticed because of what you're doing, I guess it's just like
that's all I can hope for.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
That's what I really want us to be, that sort of that place where people come in to sort of put themselves out there. Yeah. And that's what my personal aim is to be that sort of that jumping off point for other guys.
Cool. Moving on now to something again that I picked up on my interview with Danny. He mentioned in passing about a new championship that you guys are going to be launching, and I know it's been announced on your social media sort of in the last few days as well. The Breakout Championship. So Outbreak. Sorry, there we go. Outbreak Championship.
Yeah.
So
keep it with the mutation.
I like that. So tell us a bit about that. What's going to happen in terms of launching it, and what sort of title is it? Where does it fit sort of in the hierarchy, as it will?
Well, the one thing that I don't like about championships is there has to be a sort of hierarchy with it. Like you have to have the big championship, you have to have the mid card, you have to have this. It's like, for me, all of our belts are on an even playing field. You're the heavyweight champion, great. You're at the top of your game. You're the tag team champions, great. You're at the top of your game. You're the Outbreak champion, great. You're at the top of your game. But I feel like the Outbreak is steered a little bit more to the younger talent, the breakout sort of Outbreak, play on words sort of thing there. And I feel like as soon as you grab that, championships is like, it's like blood in the water for a shark. When you taste it a little bit, you want more.
Yeah.
And the Outbreak, I feel, is going to be that sort of the first one, the sort of first notch in your belt. You're like, right, where are the tags?
Yeah.
Right, where's Cayman hiding with a heavyweight championship? So it's if you want to put it in a hierarchy, it would be the sort of first step, but also that first step is higher up than a lot of people get. Like, I'm 5 years in, I've never had a belt, so I'd be chasing that like nobody's business. It's really the opportunity belt, the intercontinental sort of thing. Then I'd like to call it. I'm a massive belt fan. I love wrestling belts, and this one right here is one of my favorites. I love the heavyweight one, but I feel like this one personally just edges it out for me.
That design in the back, is that like etched into the plate?
Yeah, it's etched into the plate.
That's really cool.
The radioactive sort of Outbreak symbol.
That's cool.
That's cool. It's I love it.
There you go. Ideal. So what's going to decide the first Outbreak champion then? When's that going to occur and how?
We're going to crown the Outbreak champion at Karnage from the Crypt. The match type isn't going to be revealed just yet. It's coming. How we're going to reveal the champion, and a crown rather, I should say. How we're going to crown the champion will be revealed very soon. Cool. But all I can say is that there's going to be a lot of bodies after this championship. There's going to be a lot of people scrambling for it, and rightfully so, because if you can get your hands on one piece of gold, it's it's the starting point.
Cool. So Cayman should be watching this back then, really, for whoever gets the handle.
If he wants to come in for the Outbreak Championship, go for it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be against him trying to become double champion. I'm sure the tag team champions, if you're listening, Bev and Bish, if you want to run for the title, come at it. Cool. Open all hours, open for everyone.
Awesome. No, that's brilliant. No, that's just adds something else. You had the draw of First Mutation being the first show and crowning the first heavyweight champion, and now you got that for Karnage at the Crypt. Are you planning any more? The one bugbear I have, I suppose, when I look at promotions these days is everyone seems to be a champion. There are a lot of titles out there. Do you know how many you're planning? Are there any more in the works?
Right now, it's just the heavyweight tag team and Outbreak. Cool. We might introduce another one in due time. Because the roster, as I said, there's a massive talent pool in Wales that we still haven't got our hands on. So the roster is going to grow significantly in the next few years. Touch wood. So we might be seeing sort of a fourth championship come out. But we are cycling in. Like, I know Necrofago is signed on the dotted line to defend his Campeonato Abierto thing. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at the pronunciations of these things. But I know he's cycled in to have his title represented on our shows. That's not a Carnage championship. That's his own that he'll be defending occasionally.
Okay.
But for right now, the Outbreak is the last Carnage brand championship that we're introducing. But who knows? We might introduce a Carnage global championship, Carnage King of the Mountain championship. Probably not those two, but there might be in due time. We might introduce another one.
I think it's the importance. Again, growing up in the era that I did, the titles meant something. And then I kind of look at it again. Yes, I cycle back to WWE because they kind of determine, I think, where everything is going or what is perceived at. And I think you having two brands and champions, two lots of champions, it's just, and the way they flip flop them around. Yeah, and it just doesn't seem to mean as much. On just sort of. One last question on the title belt thing. Again, I can share in your geekness with that. Have you got a favorite over the years? Like one?
But the one that for this championship, for the Outbreak Championship, that I took inspiration from it when I was pitching ideas was not the current X Division Championship, but the X Division Championship they had from, I think it was 2005 maybe to like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
That the Red X.
Okay, yeah, I know the one.
That one. That was like a huge inspiration for it. That's why Outbreak is in red on the sort of engraved background.
Yeah.
I love that title. The Intercontinental Championship, the oval and the old white strap classic title. I love those.
Yeah.
TNA's Global Championship. I know I sort of made fun of it just then, but I absolutely love that design.
So, I'm not familiar with TNA. I know Global.
It was the Legends television.
I know the one you mean. The one that
they
they
had every
renamed
name
everything.
under the sun.
Yeah.
But the belt looked fantastic.
I know the one. Yeah.
The tag team titles from that era as well, and the original TNA Heavyweight Championship. I loved all of their championships at one point. I thought they were the most stunning things going. Obviously, the big gold.
Yeah.
The Winged Eagle, and then for me, the undisputed WWE Championship. And because of when I got into wrestling, the spinner as well. I'm sorry, okay? I was a child. I liked the championship. I think it looked cool.
I think that's the one I look at, and I think CM Punk's legendary title run, the only thing that marred it was the fact that he was carrying around something that looked like I had made it when I was 5 years old.
Like a prestigious championship. I mean, loads of gold on it and diamonds and things.
It's about that thick. He couldn't really,
thick.
He couldn't really wear it around his waist.
But when they stopped the spinning feature, it worked. It worked a lot better without the spinning thing. But I like that from when I was born. But like championships. Oh, and the TNA, NWA World Television Championship.
Oh that's
up there for me. But yeah, as I said, I could go on about belts. I love them. I think I literally Google championship belts sometimes just to look at which one is my favorite one right now.
I follow a page on Facebook which is just championship belts of wrestling, I think it's called, and they just come out with these really obscure, territorial ones from back in the day as well, and some are dire, but some are like, wow, wish I'd seen.
Some are just leather with the sort of like a metal pin in it, but some of them are also like, you look at them and you go, that was made in 1973.
Yeah, right.
You don't get belts like that now.
No. I think if I had enough money, there's quite a few out there I would love replicas of, but I think the Winged Eagle
television,
the NWA television title, the Winged Eagle, and probably the NWA World,
I love the dome belt
one. Yeah. I mean, it's such an iconic image. I'm glad they're still using it. Really.
Well, the colors for the NWA television again are sort of some of the inspiration of the Outbreak, because I know Brewski Blanche and Danny and Dav, I think as well, loves that belt. We all sort of like that belt.
Cool.
And the colors from it, you've got the reds and the blacks and the silver plate.
Yeah.
And it just really pops for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I like it, no matter what strap it's on. I know Dan said he's a sucker for a red strap. I don't really care the color of a strap. Just, give me a good plate and I'm happy. But
cool.
But yeah, I love looking at championships.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I'm still a kid at heart when I go through those. And back in the day when I gave myself blisters cutting up as we were talking before we came on about my first toy belt, was for those out there who may remember it, made by Hasbro. It's a plastic Winged Eagle, very stiff, and I cut it into the shape of the $1 million belt. Gave myself blisters in between my fingers.
Right, I'm gonna age myself. Like normally when people say that, they're gonna look old, but I look quite young when I show my first belt because I got it right now.
Cool.
It's this one. It's the World Tag Team Championships.
Yeah.
Never got my hands on the WWE, the blue one. Never got my hands on those, but that was bought for me when I first got into wrestling, along with a wrestling ring with La Resistance, Rene Dupree, and Sylvain Grenier as the figures, which is maybe the most random
it's a bit
thing. But Rene Dupree just sort of kept following me when I first started watching wrestling. He was just everywhere.
Oh, you mentioned that at the top. Yeah. Cool. Right.
And then I actually got to share the ring with him.
Oh, did you?
I brought up the fact that he lost to Rey Mysterio in the first match I ever watched. And backstage, apparently there were threats that he would kick my ass because of it. But after it, he shook my hand and said that was a great segment. I was like, thank you, Mr. Rene Dupree, sir.
There you go.
And then I went out and wrestled a hardcore match against Danny and Blake Henson. So wrestling's weird sometimes.
It's a bit, isn't it?
You meet your childhood heroes and then get kicked very hard, like 20 minutes later.
Only one industry that could happen, but you still
only in wrestling. Could you meet someone that you used to watch as a kid?
Yeah.
And then they will watch you get put through a door. Poetic. It really is.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up, unfortunately, a little bit. But I've had a blast talking to you, mate. It's great to hear about the other side. And like I say again, as more of a writer myself, I've always been interested in a flavour of what goes on and people's thought processes. So thank you so much for sort of divulging that. I've got a few quick fire.
My brain goes from everything, so it's all good.
That's brilliant. I've got a few quick fire questions to finish off with, just for a bit of fun. So your most honest answer to all of these just gives us a flavour of sort of who you are as a wrestling fan, I think, really. So firstly, WWE or AEW?
Right now, AEW, just from the volume of stuff they're putting out and the quality of their pay-per-view just really steered it for me.
Cool. Undertaker or Sting?
Undertaker. I was more WWE than, obviously WCW was already dead by the time I was born. I know, I'm sorry, I'm young. And TNA, Sting was sort of like a manager type role when I was watching that and didn't really wrestle. Whereas Undertaker was fully active when I started. So Undertaker wins it for me just about.
Are you a fan? Do you go back and watch any of the old school stuff? Are you a very much
absolutely. I watched loads of NWA and WCW stuff from like the early not so much the Monday Night Wars. I don't care for the Attitude Era. Probably gonna get me crucified.
I was a fan still at the time, and I got to admit that was towards the end of when I watched it. So I haven't got a great affinity with it, but yeah, it's
not that interesting to me. I love characters, so I go back to 1994 or 1995 and watch people like the Goon, and I think it's hilarious. But I go back and watch NWA, WCW all the time. Some of my favorite matches are from that sort of 1989 to 1990, maybe 5.
Yeah.
So that time frame.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite matches are from that time. So
I'm totally with you on that. I did a show when I first launched the podcast. I did a few sort of solo shows, and I did one where I basically dissected my experience of 1995, because it goes down in history still as one of the worst years in pro wrestling completely. And I got fond memories for various reasons of it. Yeah, it's quite cool. The next one, favorite ever match. So one that you can go back and watch time and time again.
It's recently changed. Okay. Very recently changed, because it was, and it's been my answer for about 3 years now. It was Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit on an episode of Raw in 2005 in Japan, a submission match. Wow. About 9 minutes maybe, but it was fantastic and I loved it. Okay. But right now, it's a toss-up between WrestleMania 10, Brett and Owen. Yeah. Love that match. Yeah. Or Steve Austin, Dustin Rhodes, Halloween Havoc 1991.
I know exactly the one. Yes, it was.
They went to draw for the television championship.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that match. I watched that with Brewski Blanche, and I keep going back to, I watch it like once a week at this point. I love it.
That's brilliant. No, that's great, because I remember vividly
Steve Austin's theme back then was the best. So I've never really spoken to anyone, I don't think, even to this day, about specifically that match or that Halloween Havoc. It's one of my favorite events from back then. I mean, the sheer sort of gimmickry of the opening match. It was Chamber of Horrors started the show, didn't it? Yeah,
it did. And then I think I I don't know if that was, no, it wasn't that one. I spoke to PN News a few months back. I think it was Great American Bash we were talking about that he was on. But I really, I loved that event. But that was really the solid wrestling match that I remember from that. You know, even though
Steve Austin doesn't get the credit for being as good as a wrestler as he was a brawler, because obviously after his neck injury, best brawler in the business, but he was so good as a technician back then.
Yeah. And so is Dustin, really. I mean, they were good.
Oh, Dustin Rhodes is still now he's one of the best. Yeah, I love him. I think he's fantastic.
And the fact that he still reinvents himself, I mean,
I don't get how he does it.
No, but timeless. So here we go. I belted this at Danny Owens as well. And who would be on your wrestling Mount Rushmore for? I didn't specify that with Danny, and I know he got a bit confused.
Oh yeah, I think he went over a bit, didn't he?
He did. He had to make a harsh decision. Yeah. So
for me, Mount Rushmore is going to be different types of wrestling. Okay. My Mount Rushmore as a manager would be Bobby Heenan. Toss up between Bobby and Paul Heyman for me. Yeah. But Paul Heyman isn't really a manager.
No. So, I'm with you with Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan is timeless. He's the best. So he's on the Mount Rushmore as a manager. As a wrestler, like just a straight up wrestler. Oh, this is hard. I don't know.
Got you on the spot.
All right, I'm gonna skip that for a second. I'll come back to it.
Cool.
As a character, pardon me. As a character, it's between Goldust and Mick Foley, because I love those. So it's between Dustin and Mick Foley.
Okay.
So you've got Bobby Heenan, Mick Foley. What a stable this would make.
I know.
Bobby Heenan, Mick Foley. From a wrestling standpoint, Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Most people would say Brett, but most people are wrong.
I'll stay quiet.
It'd be Owen for me. I love Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Biggest Owen Hart fan, despite the fact that I wasn't live when he was.
No.
I think he's fantastic.
Special, yeah.
And then see if I can put I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna put 5 because I need to put a tag team on. All right. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna put 5.
Oh, I'll let you off because Bobby Heenan could manage Mount Rushmore. Maybe.
Exactly.
Loophole. Sorry, Danny. I was harsh on him, but
I figured this out. I've given this a lot of thought in the 25 seconds that I've had to answer it. But yeah, the tag team. Oh, I'm even blocked on this because there's like 3 that I can pick from. Oh, this is you're evil. You're evil.
If I could do an evil laugh, I would.
All right, yeah, Arn and Tully. It's the safe answer.
Okay, yeah.
Arn and Tully.
Okay with that. Yeah, pretty good. I like that.
I loved Larry Zbyszko as well, but it's Tully. It's always going to be Tully.
Yeah, again, going back to Halloween Havoc 91 then, really, wasn't it? It was Arn and Larry Zbyszko. It was the first time I think I knew the Brainbusters.
It was great.
Yeah.
Doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Very good.
Brilliant. Was so mean. I have to cut off some people that I love, like Dean Malenko or Chris Jericho.
It's difficult in there, and I know everyone. I sit back and I watch discussions like this on a lot of these forums.
Oh, how can I do a Mount Rushmore without including Ric Flair?
Too late.
No, right. Arn and Tully are gone. Ric Flair's in. Oh, this is evil.
It's always one of my favorite. I did a little while ago on here, one of the audio episodes. I did a similar thing with a couple of guests that I had, and we picked WWF champions, past champions. Then we sort of put a world champion, IC champion, and tag team champions. That was a lot of fun. Made you think. So
I just did a Mount Rushmore of wrestling without including 2 of my favorite wrestlers of all time, in Ric Flair and Chris Jericho. I don't know how I managed to do that.
Oh, there you go. The first instincts and all that. So
despicable.
Kai, thank you so much for your time, mate. This has been brilliant. I really do appreciate you coming on.
I've enjoyed this. I've loved it. Yeah, it's been great fun. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. No problem. And best of luck with everything you got going on and with Karnage and everything. I for one am keeping a close eye on what's happening, and hopefully off the back of these, a lot more people that sort of see this will be following you guys as well. And yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing what lies ahead, mate.
Brighter days ahead.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it can't get much worse than the last sort of 18 months, really.
Very true. Very true.
But cool. Thank you again, mate. And yeah, all the best.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.